volunteer of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, and also current president-elect of same institute. I call upon Madame Marjorie Ngwenya.
Morning, everyone. So I'm actually going to walk and talk because I'm trying to get points on my Fitbit as we make it. Okay, so James and Renee have given you all the kind of brainy stuff, all the technical TPD you're going to need, and I'm here to give you a little bit of diversity, a little bit of interaction, so I'm looking for some response, participation, lots of questions, and chatting. Okay. I'm going to talk to you today about what we can do to be relevant, what do we want to be known for, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we can do to sustain our relevance and modelled along the institute and faculty value principle. I'm going to ask for a little bit of collaboration here from Sam to flick forward for me, if you don't mind. Okay, so I will let you know when I need to. I want to start with this concept of what we want to be known for, and I have three little anecdotes from my own existence that I'd like to share. They're all related to immigration. So those of you that know my diary will know that I travel a fair bit. I spend a lot of time in airports. And so the first one is at Tambo International Airport, and I'm coming back from a long trip. I'm really tired. I don't want to have lots of questions. You know, I'm legitimately allowed to enter South Africa, so let's just get over and done with this. And sometimes they let me through without asking for my work permit. On this occasion, they did. So they look at it and they read it and they're like, oh, what's your exceptional skill? I'm like, well, I'm an actuary. I'm expecting a blank stare. I must say, South African public is very well informed about what the actuary profession is. And so this official says to me, that's fantastic. You must be really clever. Oh, okay. I'd like my son to do that. What do you think? We ended up having a 10-minute conversation about why his child should become an actuary. Really great experience. Next experience at Heathrow Airport. And again, really tired, long flight, just want to get over and done with this. Usually, scan passport through easily. This time, this chap is really chirpy. It's like 6:30 in the morning and he's giving me, good morning, Margie! Good morning, young Margie. So I was like, okay, thanks. And then he says, so what do you do for a living? So I say, well, I'm an actuary. Oh, what? An actress? Really? Like EastEnders and stuff? No, actually, you're not way too posh for EastEnders. It can't be. And he goes on, and I say, really sorry, an actuary. Yeah. Right, so no brand recognition at all. Last, so 2 weeks ago, I don't know again. Same question. Exceptional skills, what is this about? Actuarial, I say. The guy says to me, do you know how to design a Ponzi scheme? True story. Right, so that is not what I want to be known for. Okay, so many of us in the room are probably too young to remember a scandal that plagued the British actuarial profession in any case. And I don't know how many of you are aware of the Equitable Life story. Hands? Yeah, we're showing our age, those of us who put our hands up, I think. So this thing played out around the time that I was coming to the profession. And this very, very reputable company, Equitable Life, made lots of promises to savers. It offered guaranteed annuity rates, wonderful, and then the interest rates fell. And these guarantees became extremely onerous, in fact ruinous for Equitable Life to honour, and so they didn't. And lots of savers lost their money. So these liabilities were unhedged, so if you ever hear about hedging and so on, this is really where it came from. Lots of criticism for the actuarial profession who actually endorsed the Equitable Life business model, lots of criticism for the government actuaries department who not alerted the public to this potential risk area. Huge implications for us as a profession in terms of how we are now regulated, in fact. So much of what you see about the UK regulatory environment is to do with what happened here. Huge scandal. Fortunately for us, there was no real kind of legal action taken against actuaries, but still, this does nothing to help our name. So do we want to be known for this? Probably not. In the US, some of you may be aware that the actuarial profession, so a job as an actuary, is constantly voted top job. Nobody really knows what an actuary is, but it pays well and stuff. So this is the kind of thing that is great press. And I must say, I struggled to find stories that were more positive about how we are adding to society. So a challenge to us to create headlines that are about how additive we are, rather than those that are about how destructive we are. Okay, so for the actuaries in the room, I appreciate that not everyone here is from the actuarial profession, but many of us need to fulfill CPD requirements. So I'm going to help you slightly on this today, because a number of us have not done our professional skills training. We need a minimum of 2 hours each year, and the deadline for the IFOA anyway is 30 June. So we need to put this CPD on our system and record a learning outcome. So I hope that you'll be able to record at least one learning outcome from today's session. Yeah. In relation to the Actuaries Code, hopefully most of you, or those of you who are members of the IFOA, and indeed of other professional bodies, will have some form of code of conduct you adhere to. And the Actuaries Code is the IFOA's version. And this really is about how we conduct ourselves. Applies to all members, so none of us are exempt. There are 5 principles that we need to care about. Acting with integrity, which I hope is natural for most of us, or all of us. Acting with competence and due care. Being impartial, so not allowing biases, conflicts of interest, and so on to affect how we make decisions. Complying with all relevant legal, regulatory, and professional requirements, so whatever Zimbabwe laws require and wherever you're working. And communicating effectively to meet all applicable reporting standards. So, all fairly common sense stuff, I hope. But we all know that the world is not so black and white. So I thought I figured out what I was going to talk to you about, and I had all my scenarios and all my questions planned. And then I went to dinner last night and sat next to Mr. Hodge. And we started discussing what life in Zimbabwe is like, and some of the professional challenges, and what are the situations that people are dealing with. So I thought, actually, this is really an interesting debate. So this is scenario 1 that we're going to talk about. I'll set the scene, and then I'm going to leave it to you guys to give me some input. Country Z, I wonder who that could be, is experiencing a cash flow crisis. I'm told that in this country, bond notes may be introduced later this year. And there's slight panic in the financial system. So we know that lots of people, including professionals, possibly some of them in this room, have withdrawn their money from the official system, exacerbating this crisis. And many of these people act in an advisory capacity. So many people are telling their clients actually to put money into the system. Many people are asking clients to continue to pay pension contributions, to continue to pay premiums, to bank their money. Yet they themselves are putting their money out. Okay, so I want some debate around this topic. Ethically speaking, is this an appropriate position to take? Linda.
Having a Zimbabwe dollar bond note is not an investment. Having a US dollar bond note is an investment.
So what's your position?
So pull your money out, keep it as US dollar cash, that's an investment in the future.
Ooh, controversial. Okay, so Linda's advocating pulling your money out of the system. What do you say, the big insurers in the room? My colleagues from Old Mutual.
Disclaimer. These are our personal views. That is Old Mutual. But my view is, for those who, a country will never be closed down. Yeah? So no matter what, Zimbabwe will be a going concern. So as far as I'm concerned, when you're talking pension investments, life investments, if you're 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to retirement, yes, probably it may be worth your while to pull your money out and put it under your pillow. But if you've got a long-term horizon, I think you need to either believe in this country, or if you don't believe in the country, then you basically have no business being here. I think at the end of the day, you need your own, at some point we're going to introduce our own currency. You need your own monetary policy that you can be in control of. The financial services sector, however, needs confidence for it to actually continue to move forward. So I guess it waits to be seen how much damage 200 million bond notes can really do in this economy. Well, if it's only 200 million. But the point is, anyway, my point is, at the end of the day, I don't think, number one, there's enough money circulating around for them to try and mop it up. It's not going to last Zimbabwe a very long time. So I don't think it's in their interest to do anything that is going to destroy confidence in the financial services sector. So keep your money coming through to Old Mutual.
I'm glad that Tawana caveated that those were his personal points of view. So I can only surmise that Tawana has not run to the bank and withdrawn everything he owns. ... Yeah. Okay, other views. Slightly emotive topic, I would expect more reaction in this.
Okay, maybe on the same controversial note, I think if professionals in the room and the institutions are basically taking the money out of the system, we essentially go back to economics 101 here. You know, savings should be channeled to investment. So in Zimbabwe, what we have is a situation where there's now a disconnect in the sense that, you know, whatever little US dollars are available, people are basically withdrawing them out of the system, and therefore there's no investment. But when there's no investment, there's no contribution to the GDP growth, which is essential for the economy to recover. So again, I think it goes back to the point that you mentioned that we have to analyze whether, you know, the fiduciary responsibilities of the institutions, your pension funds, your life assurance, are in essence being carried out the way they should be. Because at the end of the day, when we have that disconnect, it's all very well and good to have all those academic arguments, but the reality on the ground, the practical realities are such that the economy itself cannot essentially recover. Our government right now has almost zero investment. I think any investment in infrastructure, any investment in the economy that government is supposed to contribute is actually basically non-existent. Most of the investment is coming in from donor funding and that sort of thing. So I think that's also another area we have to look at, that in as much as, you know, confidence, like Tawana just said, that, you know, confidence in the system is essential, but at the end of the day, who is to drive that confidence? The government may mess up, the government may come up with all kinds of policies that we consider as professionals to be insufficient or inadequate, but at the end of the day, we have to take our own responsibility and maybe come up with a view that regardless of the current situation, we can contribute meaningfully and be the leaders in the field, as it were.
Thank you very much for that very well-reasoned view. So I'm hoping our next person is going to take an interesting position. So I'm hoping for somebody who's actually convinced that taking their money out of the system, like Linda, they've already called HSBC in Hong Kong and they're like, sorry guys, this situation is not sustainable, I want my money out.
Marjorie,
Okay, I've got one here.
My concern here is, because it's an ethical position. Do you advise that your clients continue to keep the money in the system or to pull it out when you are doing the opposite? So it's an ethical question, and it's not being answered.
Thank you. With that, over to you.
On that, and I just want to say thanks for posing the question. And secondly, can I claim 8 hours sleepless night CPD before this one?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sorted out. No, I think it's a critical one, and well, fortunately, I didn't have to draw my money out of the bank because, well, I'm from Cape Town. But the ethics is a serious thing here, especially in an environment where you don't have confidence. So to tell people to suddenly get confident where they were burnt less than 5-6 years ago in their own living memory, so to speak, is extremely, extremely difficult. So I think I don't have an answer for you, but you can't be on your high horse on this one.
No, for sure, and that's exactly the point, because there are people in this economy, advisors in this room, who are probably conflicted, and I don't know if anyone will raise their hand and say so.
Thank you. I was just hoping that our discussion become I think that it's a very pertinent question, and I want to give my own view. If we want to continue doing the things that we are doing, we should not be telling people to take away the money from where it is. It's quite simple, because we are earning the same money that we are taking from the bank, from the people that we are telling to put in and are taking us out. So on an ethical basis, it's a failure. That's the actual truth. What we need is authenticity amongst the players. If it's for advocacy, if it's for causing the right things to be done, so be it. But we can't sit here and say, I'm withdrawing all my money, and then tomorrow go to a marketing meeting, you ask me for a pension fund to put money into insurance company, so that you can take the checks and take them out of the bank yourself.
Thank you, that's strong view. Okay.
I think at individual level, I would suggest that we take out our money as a way of accepting bond notes, like getting space for bond. But businesses do not take out their money.
So you don't think it's hypocritical then to remove your money from the system but insist that your clients put it in? Interesting. So Shepard, you asked for innovation. There's one such solution.
I think from an investment point of view, there is long-term investments and short-term investments. In which case, short-term you would prefer to hold money, long-term you would prefer to hold real assets. So you probably advise to hold a bit of money, cash, and hold also real assets. So for my needs, I think I have short-term needs. I would want to hold cash. And then I advise the other institutions to invest long-term if they've got a long-term horizon.
Okay. And auditor's point of view, perhaps.
I'm going to caveat my comments that these are not necessarily the views of my professional body, of ASA, my employer, or even myself. I'm going to make a statement that can you justify the difference by arguing that there is a difference between personal investment strategy and corporate investment strategy, and leave it as a question, not a comment.
Okay, interesting, provocative. Just one moment, Linda, and then.
Here I'm drawing on experience. From the previous period of high inflation, which, looking back at it due to the commission, lasted something like 20 years in the end. One of the biggest problems I saw in pension funds was that they took advantage of the 21 days after the end of the month to pay across cash and to invest. And my point here is that we're talking about withdrawing money from the banking system, but what we should be doing is actually looking around for investment for our funds. The banking system is a different sort of thing. For those funds that actually paid before the end of the month, we saw in the end, you can more than, if you know the numbers, the value of your investment really took off. And I think that's the important thing. We're talking about corporate investment. My point about the dollar was that it is an investment. Okay? And what we should be doing is looking for practical ways of investing that go beyond this.
Great, thank you.
Okay, expenditure will always transfer. That's the first thing. The wounds are still, they've not yet healed from the $1 here. So what we're saying is that as we advise the corporate clients, at the end of the day, we should be, it's not just an issue of saying, just leave your money there. But at the end of the day, they also want to know, should the system collapse, what would they be left holding? So I would suggest that as a measure of security, or to instill some confidence in them, we may say, can they not borrow against their pension savings, like mortgages? so that at the end of the day, like you realize that the $1 economy collapsed, but maybe people who own property like Old Mutual, they're still standing, and people are asking, my money disappeared, I can still see this ticket there. What happened? But I say my money disappeared. So at the end of the day, what can if you are to tell them that please keep your money in there, but at the same time, can you guarantee that they will be left with holding something should the system collapse? Thank you.
Thank you. So I didn't expect personal mutual, but nice controversial thought to think about. Where are we? The back.
I think from an ethical standpoint, the best is through the institutions and associations, come up with some where there's a professional opinion in which the RBZ is holding consultations, and perhaps then you can engage them from their professional aspect. Now, whether your personal position is different from their professional aspect, you've played your role, so you can sleep well at night.
Unless people have very, very, very different views, I want this particular discussion to a close. I think you make a very strong point about the role that ASN has to play in thought leadership, so to colleagues in the room.
I think this question is calling us to introspect. So sort of like we need to be honest, people of integrity. So I think that's the first thing that we should take note of. And secondly, if the situation is changed such that what we used to have as products and services is not fitting the usual advice that we've been giving, perhaps it's calling us to review the products we have, review the services we provide, and think outside the box and see then, in this kind of situation, how can you assist from a savings point, from an investment point, than to try and use the old products, old ways of doing things, and then say, this is the way things should work. Because I think the situation is changing, circumstances are changing, so I think likewise we also need to think how we can adapt to the new situation by thinking of new products, thinking of new services that we can offer under such circumstances. That's my thinking.
Okay, so Shepherd's Board is full circle to innovation. Can we close with your comment on before we move on to the next? We're short of time.
Thank you, Marjorie. My first question to you is, will this feature as a fellowship question? That would be nice. I think a few Europeans will fail this one. That will balance out the scale. I think bond notes are not going to work. They don't fit in with the movement in the financial sector, technology, transaction movement, the way people are thinking about banking. I think we're going to see more of a shift towards other alternative ways of holding value rather than plastic money. I've basically told anyone who's bothered to ask me not to even bother about bond notes. I think they're going to have a very short lifespan. We need to be street smart about this, and I had a chat with my brother yesterday about our street shenanigans in 2008. And I think the introduction of the multiple currencies was not a policy issue of the government. The government simply had to make an endorsement. They're making a mistake by thinking that this is something they can do. They can't do it. I think it's as simple as that.
Very helpful and provocative discussion. So clearly it's not a black and white issue. My personal view is probably quite similar to Doug's here, that if we call ourselves advisors and we pull our money out of the system, knowing that undermines the system, can we look at ourselves in the mirror? Okay, next scenario is probably targeted towards the younger members in the room. So those professionals who are building their careers, developing their areas of specialism. So imagine this actuary, Y. She's an expert in her field. She's really developed some niche knowledge working with her company. While she's been working for this company, she's dedicated a lot of her personal time to document some methodology notes around this specialist topic. Now she's going to a new company. Does she have the right to take that document with her? She wrote it. Her knowledge, does it belong to her? Views?
I think it belongs to her, to be honest. She's done it during her personal time. She had to research. As much as her employer might try to lay claim to it, she's pretty much invested in herself. So if you've invested in yourself and move around with what you have, it doesn't belong to the employer. Unless you put it during their time and they pay you for it.
Okay, different points of view from Sam.
I think it's an issue of intellectual property. As long as I work for an organization, all the work that I develop, all the models that I develop, they belong to the company. I might have learned a lot of things during the process, but the work is not mine, and I have to submit it to my employer. Innovation, it happens every day. If you are really creative enough, I'm sure when you move on, you can even develop other things. But what you develop for your employer, it should remain there. I think it's an issue of it comes back to the issue of ethics. You've been working for this company, yes, unless if you've developed it at your own spare time and they've declared it to your company, then in that case now, it belongs to you. But if you haven't, it belongs to the company.
What's your name?
Brian.
Brian, where are you working?
I'm working at All Mutual.
Way, go All Mutual. Okay. You got both pieces.
I think it's not a limit. The standard converse and the document that you make for someone belongs to them. But if you look at the way knowledge belongs to the brain of the person, it's a relatively theoretical conversation. Yes, you can leave the document that you prepared, save it somewhere, whether you copy it or not, but if you understand what you're doing, it goes away with you.
That says that if you're smart enough, actually, it's in your mind. So, all right, other points of view?
Well, I think it actually depends on what the contractual agreement between the employer and the actuary said. If it had been explicit enough, then that would determine everything.
To some extent, it could be an issue of inefficiency on the part of this actuary. The reason why she had to work in her spare time. So, to some extent, it is still the company's property, the fact that you developed it for you.
So it's her fault?
Not really, but then I'm saying it depends on the context. Because there were some arguments about how she's doing it in her spare time.
Okay.
I think that if the company does not value that piece of work and you feel like another company or a company that you're moving to or in your personal capacity, you could create value out of it, I think it would be fair to use it in other ways.
I used to work in research and development in bioengineering, and whatever you think of, whether development at home, whilst you're working for the company, it's the company's intellectual property. And they usually outline that when you're trying for them. So I think it's definitely applied in this case. It's not yours.
Okay, thank you. One more.
Thank you. I'm also of the view that it belongs to the company. However, I think that if the company does not value that piece of work and you feel like another company or a company that you're moving to or in your personal capacity, you can create value out of it, I think it would be fair to use it in other ways.
Interesting. Okay. How would you determine that the company valued or didn't value? Great. Okay, any views from our senior practitioners in the room?
Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I know the Actuarial Society of South Africa also make a lot of noise. I'm not sure if you're intending to extend this thing in this scenario, in which case I'll not preempt the next potential
please
slide.
go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. So take it slightly differently. You've been developing a new product and you've become an expert in a particular area. And you've been involved in the team developing it, and you now go to the other employer and they want to start developing the same product. It's not yet in the market, it's highly innovative. What do you do in that situation?
What you asked from the older members of the profession. The true answer is it belongs to your previous employer. But we just faced a very similar situation in our company in Nairobi, where we employed somebody who came from Deloitte, newly qualified, and he was developing a product there, a post-retirement medical umbrella product. And we had been thinking about it ourselves for a long time, but we just didn't get enough resources to do it. So this young man walks in, and first thing he tells me, James, this is what I've got, and we were moving with it. Now, from when I wear my hat as an employer, the first thing I told him is, "Wait, come, sit here. Bring it down. We were going to spend 3 months to get it done, but here is somebody who was helping us to get it done in 2 weeks, and we launched the product." So it's quite difficult. As a pure actuary, it's not the right thing to do. Let him come, let's think through what can we make different and all that. But as an employer, I was going to spend 3 months with 2 other actuaries going through this thing. This guy comes in, we are able to spend 2 weeks, tweak it, make it better than what he had, and launch the product. So it's a very difficult one. But I guess the true answer is he should have left it where he was, but as an employer, I want the money.
A practical answer. Okay, so someone was prepared to answer the product question somewhere over here.
Thinking, isn't this about integrity, and the next thing after that is conflict of interest and non-compete clauses. So why are you sharing this information? It's not ethical. If you are really smart, once you notice that you're coming up with something new, you should have left then and started something on your own. But the more you stay, the more it becomes the company's work project.
Okay, so thank you for that discussion. It actually is, the generally understood principle is it belongs to the employer, it's the employer's IP. As I did point out, if you truly are that niche expert, if the knowledge is in your head, it belongs to you. If you have to go and take the document in order to recall it, then actually it's not your knowledge, is it? So, and it's very, very tricky for young people, I suppose, who are smart and are contributing, to be tempted into taking documents from their employer and sharing them with their next employer. Dangerous zone. Also, the issue that Peter raises really is one of ethics around having knowledge of a company's competitive advantage and taking that to another employer. Yeah, that's fairly black and white. I don't think you're going to get away with a disciplinary if you were found to be doing that. Rita would like to say something.
I think for me it's just a question where the staff retention comes in. Because obviously if you're looking at competitive advantage, the company you're leaving must know the value you carry. So I think for me it comes back to, it's just business. It's in my head. If you value me that much, pay me for it.
Bespoke strategy, you know, what they're doing to enter the market next and so on. So I have this particular challenge right now. I am intimately green and I'm turquoise at the moment because I'm about to go blue. So I need to forget everything I learned when I was green and relearn new stuff when I'm blue. So personal place. Okay, so I was going to go through a third scenario, but I think we're actually stretched for time in terms of discussing this. But one for, again, probably the social media users in this room. Careful what you say out there. Public record, searchable, and it is our world today. I just want to leave you with a few thoughts, and maybe we'll have time for 1 or 2 questions at the end, but around what it means for the ASZ to move forward, and what it means for you guys to innovate and take your profession forward. The Institute of Faculty of Actuaries is modeled around 3 values: community, integrity, and progress. So this is really how I've structured it. In terms of community, you guys will probably underestimate how important it is to bring your people together in this way. You'll probably underestimate how important it is to get your junior students through their exams, to build frameworks for them to interact more, study together, mark each other's papers, get advice from senior members of the profession, and so on. And when I talk to African actuarial societies, I often get this whole plea for help, kind of, you know, we're helpless, how can you help us mentality. You guys can actually help yourselves. And actually you should want to help yourselves. And where there are gaps, then you should be seeking support elsewhere. Now, there are lots of senior members of the profession in this room who can advocate for other support, whether it's from ASSA, the IFOA, from your regulator, from employers, and so on. So make use of them. That's my encouragement to you. Integrity. This is about doing the right thing, being honest, accountable, and professional. And you guys know, as we've discussed, the Zim context is not straightforward. So you guys are going to be in situations where things are probably more grey for you than they are for people working in London or in Sweden. So seek advice from your senior members of the profession. Remember that as actuarial professionals, you are required to uphold high standards. Demonstrate that. I don't know if you have a local disciplinary scheme, Shepard, but probably want to consider. You want to demonstrate to members of the public that you will discipline and you will demonstrate that members where they're not acting in the right manner will be dealt with. You want to be trusted advisors all round, to business, to your regulators, you want to build relationships with people like the media and showcase what actuaries are known for. In terms of progress, essentially you guys want to be, I think someone earlier talked about leading the way and thought leadership. You want to position yourselves in a way that demonstrates that you understand your own relevance in your own market and you can provide solutions. So there are lots of topics where I don't know if ASZ has had a voice, but probably could have a voice. Something to think about. There are new areas of practice that are probably relevant in this market again and aren't relevant somewhere else. We've seen, for example, in Australia, where the demand for pensions actuaries was very, very low. They carved out a new niche for themselves. There were not going to be any actuaries sitting at home unemployed. So Australia actually has a very high number of general insurance actuaries. They've made that their main practice area. Huge opportunity for you guys here. So just as a thought. So I'm very keen on volunteering, as you know. I spoke to some students in Ghana at the beginning of this year and shared with them my volunteer profile, the things I've been involved with and so on. And I was not saying to them that as students they should discard their studies and start volunteering en masse. I was just encouraging them to think about, as they develop in the profession, what they might contribute. So they looked at this and they thought, gosh, wow, okay, you've done quite a lot. And then I closed the session, and it had been quite a long day. We talked about all sorts. The new actuarial qualification, and we talked about how the structures in the country could support them or not. And I say, okay, so any questions? And there's one guy very eagerly puts his hand up. Oh gosh, a really tough one. I'm tired. Okay, go for it. And he says, Marjorie, it's a very impressive volunteer